Welcome to the OPT or Optional Practical Training Basic Workshop. Today we're going to review the basics of OPT, what it is and how to become eligible. We will discuss when and how to apply, as well as maintaining F1 status, traveling during OPT, and options after OPT. Before we begin, here's an overview of the F1 student employment options. The workshop today will specifically cover pre-completion OPT and post-completion OPT. Optional practical training is a work option that allows you to work off-campus before or after your program completion. Federal F1 regulations describe OPT as temporary employment for optional practical training directly related to a student's major area of study. This authorization can be granted for 12 months per academic level, and a 24-month extension can be permitted for eligible STEM majors meeting specific requirements. OPT is a benefit of your F1 visa status that will allow you to gain experience or training in your field of study. While you're on OPT, you are required to report to the International Center to maintain your status. Remember, OPT is not a new type of visa. You will continue to be an F1 visa holder while you're on OPT. Let's discuss how you can become eligible. You must first be enrolled full-time for one full academic year in F1 status. The academic year is one spring and one fall semester back-to-back. Since summer is optional and you are not registered for immigration purposes, it is not included in the academic year. You must also be in good academic standing with your department. If you were previously authorized or planning to partake in CPT, curricular practical training, please keep in mind that 12 months of full-time CPT will make you ineligible for OPT. But any time less than 12 months or part-time CPT does not impact your OPT. If you have been previously authorized for OPT at the same or higher educational level, you will not be eligible for OPT. So you can only do OPT once per degree level. So for example, once after your bachelor's degree and then again after a master's degree. However, if you go for a second master's, you would not be eligible for a second OPT. There is a maximum of 12 months of total time allowed for OPT. These 12 months can be used for pre-completion OPT, they can be used for post-completion OPT, or a combination of both. Each type of OPT requires its own application to USCIS. You cannot apply for both pre- and post-completion together in one application. Pre-completion OPT can be part-time while you are taking classes during your degree program. You can choose part or full-time during vacations, such as summer, or it can be full-time if you have completed all of your degree requirements and you are in the dissertation, thesis, or recital stage of your program. Post-completion OPT, on the other hand, begins after the completion of your program, once you've graduated, and it is only authorized for full-time work. OPT will be authorized for part-time or full-time work. If you are authorized for part-time OPT, you can only work up to 20 hours per week. If you are authorized for full-time OPT, which is always the case for post-completion OPT, you must work over 20 hours per week with no maximum. If you wish to apply for pre-completion OPT, it's important to plan ahead. Any time that you use during pre-completion will be subtracted if you apply later for post-completion OPT. Remember, 12 months of OPT per academic level. Each month of part-time OPT counts at half rate. So for example, using 2 months of part-time OPT equals 1 month of full-time. This would leave you 11 months of total OPT time remaining. It is also important to plan when you wish to apply for OPT. For pre-completion OPT, you can apply no earlier than 90 days before the end of your second semester of full-time registration. You can apply no earlier than 90 days before your desired OPT start date. If you are applying for post-completion OPT, you will be able to do so during your final semester. You can apply as early as 90 days before your program end date, but not sooner. You can also apply during the 60-day grace period after your program end date. However, we don't recommend this. If you apply after program completion, it is possible that the length of your OPT authorization may be shortened by USCIS. USCIS may take 3 to 5 months to process your application. However, this is just an estimate. Times can be shorter or longer. You can track current timeframes on the USCIS website. We recommend that you apply as early as possible. USCIS has been very unpredictable with their processing times. Another reason to apply early is that if your application is rejected by USCIS, you will be able to correct any errors and reapply if you are still within your time frame. However, if you apply late and your application is rejected, you will lose the chance to reapply. Take a look at the window to apply for post-completion OPT. I can't stress enough to apply early. Remember, you can apply up to 90 days prior to your program end date. When applying, you're also going to need to choose an OPT start date. For post-completion OPT, this start date falls within your 60-day grace period. The 60-day grace period follows the program end date. So what is a program end date? This is important to understand. When you were issued an I-20, it was created for the average length of your degree program. Ideally, your program end date matches the end of your final semester prior to graduation. If you look at your I-20 and you see a program end date that matches your final semester, excellent. This is the date we're talking about. However, if you're graduating earlier than expected and your program end date does not match and is off into the future, this will be updated when you apply for OPT. No need to worry. The program end date for a fall semester usually falls around December 15th to the 20th of that year. For a spring semester, this date falls around mid-May, May 15th, May 20th. Here is an example of a timeline for the spring 2021 semester with an I-20 program end date of May 15th, 2021. Be sure to plug in your correct program end date and adjust the dates accordingly. In this scenario, 90 days before the program end date is February 14th, and that's the earliest that USCIS can receive an application. USCIS must receive the application on or before the 60th day, which is July 14th in this scenario. So here's how you get started. Keep in mind you must be inside the US to apply for OPT. If you're applying for post-completion, you also need to apply for graduation by submitting your degree application. You will need to prepare your application and supporting documents. Next, you want to consider and choose your OPT start and end dates. You will also need to photocopy your documents. You should have a copy for your own records and a copy that you will send to USCIS. You are going to need to digitally upload your documents for review by the International Center. You will need to gather your documents as you will submit your application directly to USCIS. As a reminder, the International Center does not file on your behalf. The first two forms listed here will be submitted to the International Center and not included in the application to USCIS. The Student Acknowledgement Form is important as it details the basic rules and regulations regarding OPT. The Program Verification Form is for post-completion OPT only. It is signed by an academic advisor to confirm that you're scheduled to graduate. The rest of the documents here will be reviewed in more details on the next slides. The USCIS G1145 is optional, but we recommend it as it allows USCIS to text or email you regarding the status of your application. The USCIS Form 1765 is the application form. You will also need to copy all of your original immigration documents, current and past I-20s, including the OPT recommended I-20 that you will receive from the International Center, copies of your valid passport, visa, entry stamp, and I-94 record, as well as any past EADs if you've been authorized to work before, and any other immigration documents you may have. You will submit a filing fee as a check or money order based off of the current filing fee found on the USCIS website. And lastly, 2 passport-style photographs. You will need to download the USCIS Form 1765, which is the application for employment authorization. If you've been working on your form for a while, double check prior to sending that you are not using an outdated version. USCIS will only accept the most current form available on their website and will reject older versions. Read each question one by one. Not all questions are to be answered. You may write NA or leave those questions blank. I'll briefly run through the section so you have an idea of the information you will need to provide when you begin the application. Here is page 1. It's important to check off 1A and enter your name as it matches your passport. This is page 2. You need to enter a valid mailing address that will be valid for at least 5 months. This is the address that will be used to mail you your EAD card. If you do not have a mailing address, you may enter another person's address and put their name in the care of box. Keep in mind, your EAD card will be sent by government mail. If your postal worker believes you do not live at the address, it could be returned. You may wish to place your name on the inside of your mailbox. If you have an apartment number, or floor, or suite, enter it. If not, leave it blank. It is very difficult to update your address once you apply, so this section is very important. If your physical address is different from your mailing address, please enter where you live. You will also fill out the other information. A number is listed on an EAD card as the USCIS number. If you've previously had an EAD card, you will need to fill out this portion as well. If you don't have a social security number, you can request one by completing questions 15 through 17. Then you can list the countries in which you are a citizen or national. There is a lot of information to enter on the left side of page 3, but most of it should be easy and can be pulled from your immigration documents. You'll need to enter your place of birth, information from your most recent I-94 record, passport information, current immigration status, which should be F1, and the CVIS number from your current I-20. Here's a sample of your I-94. It's your electronic arrival record. You can access this online and you can use it to answer the questions on your form. If any information is incorrect on your I-94, please notify the International Center right away. You will need to include the I-94 record in your application. It can be downloaded from this website. Going back to page 3 of the I-765, you will need to complete question number 27 on the right side of the page. There are 3 types of OPT that require 3 separate applications. It is important that you use the correct code, as listed here, to indicate which OPT you are applying for. For pre-completion OPT, you will write a small letter C, the number 3, and then a capital A. Post-completion is a small letter C, number 3, and a capital B. If you're applying for pre or post-completion OPT, you can skip the rest of the questions on the right side of this page. The applicant's statement, contact info, and signature is split between page 4 on the left and page 5 on the right. You must complete these sections, print the I-765 form, and sign in ink Electronic signatures are not accepted and your application will be rejected. Also, do not sign outside of the box area for the signature. This could also result in the rejection of your application. Usually, students do not need an interpreter or preparer to complete the application. However, if someone has helped you in this way, you must include their contact information and signature on page 5 and/or page 6. Page 7 shown here is used to provide additional information. Not everyone needs to complete it. However, please take a look. If you had any other CVIS IDs, you must list them here. If you were authorized previously for CPT or OPT, it also must be listed in this section. Here are some tips to avoid unacceptable photos. I do not recommend taking your photos yourself. It's best to go and have passport-style photos taken at a place like Walmart or CVS. If your photos do not meet the requirements, your application will be rejected. Please write your name on the back of your photos, and be careful when doing this. You do not want to press so hard that the writing is imprinted on the other side. You also do not want to place the photos on top of each other with wet ink. Use a pen or pencil, whatever is easiest to avoid these errors. This slide gives you an idea of the application process. First, you need to gather and upload documents to the International Center. We cannot begin reviewing your application until all of your documents are uploaded. Please plan ahead. The review process could take up to 2 weeks. You will receive feedback, and finally you will receive an OPT recommendation I-20 from the International Center. Once you have that, you will have 30 days to mail your documents to USCIS. If you do not mail them within the 30-day window from when you are given your OPT I-20, you will need to contact the International Center. USCIS processing will begin. If you use the G1145 form, you will receive an email or text message. Next, you will get a I-797 receipt notice by regular mail. You can use the receipt notice to check your application status on the USCIS government website. Finally, a decision notice will be sent to you, and if approved, an EAD card will also be sent to your mailing address. Here is a sample of the receipt notice that you will receive usually within 4 to 6 weeks. You need to review the receipt notice and check for accuracy. The paper receipt will be sent to your mailing address, and you need to keep this for your records. When you receive your employment authorization document or EAD card, you will also need to review it for accuracy and then report to the International Center by sending a copy of the front and the back of the card. Review the EAD card and note your approved start and end date. It's important to remember that you can only begin work after you receive the EAD card and the approved start date is present. If you are working before this start date, you could lose your F1 status. Also, your employment must be related to your major, not a minor or a concentration. If you are working with post-completion OPT authorization, then you will need to consider unemployment periods. You are allowed a maximum of 90 days of unemployment during your OPT period. This begins on the start date that is listed on your EAD card. As we mentioned earlier, you will need to be working more than 20 hours a week to be considered engaged in OPT. You may engage in many different types of employment during your OPT period, as you see listed here. They can be paid or unpaid, as long as you are following F1 immigration regulations and any labor laws. During your OPT period, there are reporting requirements. You must continue to update the International Center of your contact information and your employer information. You're also required to update your employer's address, your start and end dates of any work, how your OPT is related to your major, the approval of your EAD card, any problems with your OPT application, the end of your OPT, and any changes in status. Currently, as of spring 2021, all reporting can be done via email to opt@hartford.edu. So you would send the completed OPT reporting form that's shown here, any job offer letters, your EAD card front and back, and any change of status notifications. Once you're on OPT, you will receive an email to sign up for the SEVP portal. This is recommended and allows you to review your SEVIS record that the International Center maintains. It's great for you to update your address and contact information directly into the portal. If you do so, you do not need to email us directly. However, do not edit your employment information in the SEVP portal. Doing so does not alert the International Center, and we will not be aware or able to issue a new I-20, which is required for any change in employment. There's always a bit of a risk when traveling. If you must travel, please bring with you documents listed here. But remember, re-entry into the U.S. is always at the discretion of the Custom and Border Patrol officers that you encounter at the port of entry. You should not travel if your F1 visa has expired. You should not travel if you have not yet received your EAD card. And lastly, we do not recommend travel when you are unemployed. It is your responsibility to follow the F1 regulations. The International Center staff is here to help and assist you, but this is your job in addition to your OPT employment. Very important to keep in mind, if you accrue more than 90 days of unemployment and you are still within the U.S., you will be in illegal status. You are expected to leave on the 90th day. You do not get a grace period if you reach 90 days of unemployment. Your OPT authorization will be terminated if you are absent from the U.S. for 5 months or more. It will also terminate if you change your status in the U.S. or re-enter the U.S. in any other immigration status, such as a visitor. OPT will also be terminated if you begin a new program of study at UHART or another school. You cannot be studying in a degree program and working on OPT at the same time. OPT is granted for a total of 12 months. There are 2 scenarios in which you may be eligible to continue working past this period granted. The first one is here, anyone who graduated in an eligible STEM field. You may be able to apply for a 24-month extension, but this requires another application to USCIS, and it must be done within the final days of your post-completion OPT period. Some employers may wish to file a petition for a work visa, the H-1B visa, on your behalf. Most of the time, these applications are filed by April 1st, and they are approved for a start date of October 1st. If your OPT period expires while you have a pending H-1B application, you will automatically receive a CAP-GAP I-20, which allows you to continue working through September 30th of that year. If you do not qualify for an extension and you have not exceeded the 90 days of unemployment, your OPT will end on the approved end date listed on your EAD card. You will then get a new 60-day grace period. During that time, you must take action by doing one of the following: transfer to another school, begin a new program of study at UHART, apply for a change of immigration status, or depart the U.S. Before we close, let's review some final tips. Apply for OPT early. Report your EAD card to the International Center once it arrives. Review immigration documents before you travel. And report any changes in address and employment to the International Center. Thank you for attending the basic workshop. If you have any questions, please contact us at opt@hartford.edu. Thank you and good luck.